All right, now we're going to talk about and look at and do the file assignment. And this assignment builds on the previous assignment, the buffers assignment. We're going to end up creating these files for this assignment. And step one is we're just going to copy over that buffers folder. So I'm going to make a directory called file. Go cd into file. I'm just going to run the screen real quick. And I'm going to copy from that my buffers assignment into here. So we are starting off with this. And that's step one. And then create a file called app.html. We add some simple HTML to it. All right, let's do that. And it'll be like this. Does anyone remember how to do this? We need a head section, right? The head section needs a title. And then there's a body section. And then I'll put a paragraph in there. This is a test. And there's another, like a meta tag in here, right? What's it? Andrew always makes a big deal about it. Do you guys remember that? It's like char set equals this. Is this it? Actually, did I get that right? Do I end it like that? Yeah, that's it? Just meta char set equals? Huh? That's it? So this is a clean HTML file. It's got all the sort of recommended components to it. Oh, I got to terminate that. All right, here we go. Make sure that's closed. All right, now we're going to serve that file when the browser sends in a request for the root resource. Right now we're sending up a codfish, right? So we don't want to do that anymore. We want to send this file. And so actually I give the code here. And let's just paste it in there. So this is the this should be that root. So we get the HTTP module, declare a variable named body. And here's our handler. We're going to skip that for now. I'm going to go to this init. So look, we're exporting two functions, handle and init. So init you call when the server starts up. Excuse me. So we're going to call init when the server starts up. And what does init do? Well, we put this require down here. We didn't have to do that, by the way. We could have done it up here. We could have done this. We could have done var fs equals require. To show you guys alternatives. And that's fs. We could have done it. Maybe this is easier to look at. The thing is, we only need it once when init runs, so I thought I'd just hide it down there and then let the reference disappear. Here, this fs variable hangs around forever. The way I had it before, it's going to get garbage collected. It's not a big deal, but you know, it might have tiny, itsy bitsy influence on things. So this is essentially, you know, it's just another module. But like I said, you know, it's, I think, slightly more conservative to do it like this, although it's harder to read. So you can use the require function right here, and we'll just use what it returns once. So we want to call the read file function on that. So you know the file system there's a, it's in the documentation, the file system module. And it's going to be there, right there. Here's the file system module. And what was it, read file? Right there. Read file. That's the name of the file, some options, which are optional, and then the callback, which is required. And then they talk about it in here. So we're going to read app.html. We just created that file. That's what we're going to read that in. We're going to read it in at server startup. We're not going to read it in each time a request comes in. I mean, that means we have to hit the file system each time a request comes in. We could turn around and read the file and then send it to the connecting client. That's too many hits on the file system. That's wasteful. So when the server starts up, we call it init, and we read in app.html into memory, whether it's sit in memory as long as the server is running. And then read file is asynchronous. See, now, reading a file is very slow. So this is an asynchronous operation. That means we have to pass in the callback function. So we tell Node what file to read, and then we give it a function and say, look, when you're finished reading it in, call this function for me. Let me know that you're done. And pass me the data, by the way. And the function takes two arguments. If there's an error, it'll call the function with an error in the first position. If there's no error, this will be null, and it'll pass in a reference to the data here, which is an instance of buffer, by the way. I just remembered that. And so when app.html gets read in, we got to check for error. If there was an error, we're going to throw the error. So if we typed in the name wrong, or I deleted app.html, we don't want the server to run. It's not going to function correctly anyway. We're not going to do this in a domain object. We're just going to shut down the server because there's no sense in running the server. Now, if this doesn't throw an error, because error is null, see, null, it's going to be null if things are okay. And null is interpreted as false. So this is false, so we won't throw the error if error comes in as null. And this is not my style. This is the Node.js style, the JavaScript style. This is the way they write it. None of this is my style. This is a style that I picked up from the JavaScript gurus that I studied, while I was learning this. So then we'd save a reference to that data object and passed it. Once again, that's an instance of buffer. And we could test that, actually. Watch this. Yeah, we'll use assert. Assert data instance of buffer. Do I need to import assert? Oops. I think I need to import that. Actually, just do it right down here. Watch this. Oh. So I can just delete one line. Require assert, and then call it. Is that'll resolve to a function with properties that we can use. It's the same as doing this, by the way. So then we call this callback. Let's just leave that in there temporarily. I just want to demonstrate that that's an instance of buffer. And then when we're done, we're going to call the callback. We're going to tell the main code that, okay, we read it in. We don't want to service requests until we read the file in. It's a nitpicky thing, If you're Facebook, it might matter. When you're rebooting your system, you don't want to start servicing requests, until you read in all your data. But in our little application, that's not going to happen. But just to show you how to do it, I'm going to do that. All right. So now the main. So we need to, we're already importing the module here. And this is where we, what do we call it here? This is handle request. What we call handle. Now what we need to do is call init. We added an init method, didn't we? Right? But is that how we want to do it? It's a little messy. Init is a function that takes a callback. That's the callback that runs when we've successfully read in the file. Because we don't want to start servicing requests until we read the data. So that means we're going to pass in a callback function here. And what do we do when we read the file in? Well, that's when we start listening to the server. See that? We're not going to call listen on the server object until we're all ready to service requests. We're going to delay that. And we save this, and I think we're ready to test that actually. I got to start it up. So here it is. Didn't work. Looks all right. How come it's not visible? Oh! Oh, we're saying it's HTML, right? We called init. We didn't throw the exception. Did I do something wrong? How come it doesn't show anything here? Oh, I didn't put anything in the HTML. Oh, look. If you look at the HTML, it's okay. It should say test. See, test. Oh, this is a test. How come that's not visible? Oh, what the heck did I do here? Yeah. This is HTML, then there's the head section, the tile. Look at that. Thank you. Now, can I just refresh the browser? Is that going to work? It's sitting in we read the file at server startup. We're not going to go out to the file system and reread it. We have to restart the server. All right, so this should show, there it is. This is a test and it's working. Yeah, there it is. We're sending the content length is 118. Let's go back here. Oh, by the way, look at this. See that? That passed, didn't it? And what happens if we, if we did, if we did something else, it's not going to work, right? See that? Just to show you that that throws the exception. So I wanted to emphasize that data that we get from the read function in the file system returns a buffer instance. All right, so now what do we do? Oh, the image. So we want to add an image. I'm going to call it image.png. We're just going to put it right there. Is the image a block element? Do I have to put that in a div? I mean, it'll work, but is this more correct?
Yeah.
Is the image is a block element? Is the image allowed? I mean, in strict mode inside body. I don't know. Andrew would know. I can tell you, but he's not here, so we'll put it in a div just to be safe. All right. So now, of course, that won't work. And that won't come through, right? So it's missing. Images. This get. Did you see that? It said not found. Oops, I need to do that. How do I go back to that? So response is it's not found. All right, so let's fix that. Here, I'm not using tabs here. So else if request.url equals, I'm using strict quality, slash image.png, then what I want to do is delegate the handling of that request to my image module, which we need to create. So the module that handles requests for the root resource, the module that handles requests for the image resource, the one at this URL, this path. And I want to show everybody, at least the people that are watching this, that, oh, we need an image. So I'm just going to, I got one ready. So there's the image. It's a coin from a video game. But now what we need is we need the module. And it's going to be similar to this root module. Oh, sorry about that. JS. So here, we're not going to read app.html. We're going to read image.png. Now the content type is not right. The content type is going to be image. I'm going to guess at this, and then I'm going to check. Is that what I put in here? Image/PNG. Oops. All right. Now we need to call init. So we're calling init on the root module. Now we also have to call init on the image module. Have the code in main.js call server listen only after both init methods invoke their callback functions. You need to think carefully about it. This is the hardest part of the exercise. So we're going to call init on image as well. Well, we could do it. We could do it in by mixing tabs and spaces. That's a no-no. I've done docking points and people's submissions for that, so I got to fix up my own code here. So root.init, and then we want to call image. So when the root.init returns, we're going to call image init, and that invokes our callback function. So when init finishes, I got to match that up here. Then here we have to call. Yeah, there it is. So that matches with that one. That matches with that one. Something is not right. All right, this is the function that gets passed into that call. This is the function that gets passed into that call. Now this is where these inits are run in sequence. We can make them run faster than that, but let's test this first. Oh, do you see the problem? I didn't import that module. There, now it's running. There it is. What's a sprite sheet? An image. This is for a video game. So that's that. Now, just a refinement, and this is not bad. But just to show you, if you really want to make it faster, because you might actually have a lot of files to read at the same time. It may not be 2, it may be 500. You don't want to do them in sequence. You want to do them in parallel. How do you do it in parallel? Let me show you how. I'm going to have this little counter here. We'll set it to 2. And then we're going to have this function. And we're going to call it, it's going to be like a init callback. So it'll be the init callback. It'll be done, I'll call it. And then what we'll do is we'll decrement n. And if n reaches 0, make it strong. If n reaches 0, then we're going to listen to the server. That's what done does. And then what we do is we do root.init, and we pass in done. That's it. And we do image.init and pass in done. You see that? Now, when init completes, done will be called. When image init completes, done will be called. And it's going to get called twice. The first time we call it, n will decrement to 1, which will not be equal to 0, so we don't listen yet. The second time done is called, we'll decrement n again. This time it'll reach 0. And then the condition is true, and we're going to call server.listen 5000. So we're delaying the server function until we've read all the data. Now this is better than the other one because look, both of these are running in parallel. And then remember, we're hitting the file system. It's very slow. Those are all done, very slowly. So we don't want one slow process to complete before we start the next slow process. We want to start everything at once, and so that they're running in parallel. I think any you guys have any questions about this? I think that answers the whole thing. That covers the whole lab. I'm going to stop there.